We're back for another episode of Blue Rush Preview Show. It's your official New York Giants show and podcast for the New York Post and SNY. Big Blue, we missed you. The bye week was too long. Let's get back into some football. Tommy DeVito and your 4-8 Giants host Jordan Love and the 6-6 Green Bay Packers for a Week 14 Monday night football primetime matchup at MetLife Stadium. I'm Brandon London, Super Bowl champ and in-game MC. I'm joined by longtime Blue Rush hosts. He's the Giants beat writer for the Post and at NY_Post_Schwartz on X. He's Paul Schwartz and two-time Super Bowl champ at LT for Kicks. Lawrence Tynes is in the building. Fellas, I'm going full in sync on this one. Bye to the bye week and hello primetime football. We've got all types of storylines for this game.
Wow. That was nice, Brandon. I really like that. That was nice.
Yeah, I'm not a Backstreet
you got
boy.
That down.
I'm
hey, don't ever do that again on this show.
Ever.
But anyway, I like where you're at. It's great seeing you guys. It has been a very, very long time. Not a lot of great news during the off week or bye week, so that's a good thing. Always. Last year, Xavier McKinney with the hand, but a lot more quiet over there in East Rutherford this year.
Yeah, look, no news is good news on a bye week, right? When you come back for that first day, what's going on? Everybody here? Yes. Everybody okay? Yes. I mean that's what coaches want. That's what players want. And
hey, let me ask you something, Paul. Do you guys like during the bye week? Are you guys like scanning police reports to like see who? There's actually journalists that do that kind of crap. Like let's scan the police reports and see who got arrested, or maybe they did. Maybe they didn't.
You don't have to scan too hard. Those things in social media now, though, God forbid those things happen. They come out. It's a rough part of the game, obviously. And I say every year, what is the longest break ever, right? It's after training camp. It's after the mini camp until the start of training camp, right? You have like the third week of June until like the third week of July is the quietest time in the NFL, right? I mean, coaches take vacations. And I always say to people, I'm not going to have a lot of stuff in the paper unless somebody gets arrested. You know what I mean? And that's because there's no football. And so you just, I know you guys know these coaches, they send these players out, right, to bye weeks and weeks off. And they're like, please, man, just chill. You want to go spend time, do whatever you need to do, but just be careful. And I think the Giants were careful. They seem to be in good shape.
So if you guys don't monitor the police reports, what about like players' social media? Because last year those guys kind of snitched on themselves with the ATVing and all. Like, you just kind of waiting to see what someone posts to see if you can write a story about it? Or
I mean, it's there. It's there. You know what I mean? It's like anything. It's it's not like you have to. When there's a new Marvel movie out, right? It's not like, I wonder when that movie's coming out. It's like it's there. They explode you with it. So, it's there. I'm not a big one to. I mean, I follow all these guys on social media, but I don't. Whatever. It's kind of their social media. I remember having this debate. This was several years ago. Remember when Snacks Harrison was, with the Giants, and he had the great 2016 season, and then it kind of went downhill from there, and his attitude went down from there. And I remember he had some stuff that he was posting on Twitter, like, fairly controversial stuff. And we would ask him about it in the locker room, and he'd say, "Oh man, that's my Twitter." And I'd be like, "Well, I know, Snacks, but Twitter is social media. We can all see it. So if you're ripping another player, or saying something controversial on Twitter, it's, in my mind, it's open. It's not like I stole your phone, you know what I mean? Or I stole your private text. He would say, "No, man, that's my Twitter. You don't have any right to talk to me about my Twitter." And I'm like, all right, so someone from the team needs to sit down with him and have a discussion about what social media actually means, So that was always a weird one.
All right, so nothing to report on off the field. Is there anything to report on the field? Any updates, anything that we should know? And we'll get into the storylines right after that.
Well, I mean, the main thing is, we always, I always used to think when guys would come back, the team would come back from a bye week, it's like, it's a month. Everyone is healed. Everyone's fine. Now it's only 1 week. Like Evan Neal's not ready to play. Left ankle is not. We'll get into him. He had some interesting things to say this week, but he's not ready to play. I talked to Darren Waller. He's not going to play this week, but he's told me I'm running around pretty good in there inside the field house, and he thinks he'll be able to play in New Orleans. After this week, we'll see. He's been very adamant about not coming back too soon, but he said he thinks he'll be ready to go. He's not in any way, in my mind, like, I'm not going to be back this season. And Dexter Lawrence, who is only the best player on the team, feels pretty confident that his hamstring is okay. And, after missing a game, that he'll be able to play on Monday night. The extra day helps against the Packers. He was pretty optimistic about that. So they should be in decent shape.
All right, the biggest storyline, Tynes, that we've been hearing all week. Tommy DeVito is going to get the start. Coach Dable said he deserved it. Your thoughts on that? Because Tyrod Taylor said he's a little disappointed, but we know he's a pro's pro, and he's going to play the game within the game. But how do you feel about Coach Dable coming out earlier this week and naming DeVito the starter?
Well, much like how I came out of the womb a place kicker, Tommy DeVito came out of the womb as a quarterback. And listen, he has earned the right to start. And naturally, I love that Tyrod reacted the way he did. He's a competitor. He wants to play, and understandably so. He was pretty visibly upset with the no comment. But Tommy DeVito, listen, I think you need to see what you have here as a staff. There's 2 games against 2 bad football teams. We recognize that. Here's a step up in class. The Green Bay Packers, 6-6. Yeah. But guys, they've lost 2 games by 1 point and 1 game by 2 points. This is a really good football team. Matt LaFleur does a great job. I believe the youngest team in the NFL. I believe the Giants are the 2nd youngest team in the NFL. So here's the future, right, of the NFC. And it's not often you get to play an NFC team out of conference in back-to-back seasons like the Giants did last year against the Packers in London. Aaron Rodgers was there. I recognize that. But I like what Brian Dable did early in the week. It gives confidence to the player to hear that. Obviously, they talked behind the scenes and let everyone know this is what we're doing. And I understand that. I don't think the players are going to have a problem with it. I really don't. Had Tommy DeVito went 0-2 and played poorly, and they still said he's the starter, 100%. But that's just the competitor and Tyrod Taylor wanting to play. Mm-hmm. But I think this is the right decision for the Giants. I really do.
Go ahead, Paul.
Sometimes a decision that's maybe a little, I don't know, controversial, but certainly there are definitely Giant fans who feel Tyrod Taylor should start because he gives them the better chance to win. And that's not outlandish. I mean, real quick, before I get into my point, I'll do a quick poll. 1 game to play. There's 1 game left, and the Giants have to win to make the playoffs. It's this Monday night. 1 game, win and in. Who's your quarterback? No, nothing about next year. Nothing about the future. Nothing about anything.
I'm going with Tyrod Taylor.
Okay, Lawrence, who you go with?
Same. Yeah, but that's not a fair question. Yeah. Anyway.
No, it's fair, but what I'm saying is, who gives you the best chance to win? Look, Robert Saleh got all jumbled up this week about that, right? Because he said, they're going back to Zach, and he said, well, I always felt Zach gave us the best chance to win, but I just wanted to make a change to give a spark. Well, that's really not, the other 52 players are like, can you please play the players who gave us the best chance to win? Now, I agree in this situation. I was quite frankly surprised that Brian Dable came out on Tuesday morning, it's Tommy. He could have waited because the game's not till Monday night. He could have said, let's see how Tyrod, looks in practice and this and that. So I have no issue with this. Look, he never said Tommy DeVito was our quarterback for the rest of the season. If Tommy DeVito goes out and lays an egg Monday night, he can go back to Tyrod next week in New Orleans. You know what I mean? And first of all, I don't think a coach, you're on a 2-game winning streak. You start taking the quarterback out on a 2-game winning streak, you look like a dope if you don't win. You know what I mean? Maybe he's got a little something. Let's stick with him. And what you guys said about Tyrod is right. I mean, you have to thread the needle just right to be a team guy, to not be a wimp, and to say that, you know what, I'm not happy about this. And he did all 3. And I think you guys, as guys in the locker room, I'm sure really appreciated that, right? He was hurt. He wants to play. Sure. And he's not making a big deal about it. You know what the best thing, somebody said to him, do you think this is fair? Right? And do you hear what he said? I don't think life is fair. So I think that's an unfair question. He said, I don't know if there's fair in this business. He admitted, Tommy's won 2 games and I got hurt and it was bad timing. you don't last 13 years just on great skill or whatever, right? You last 13 years because you know how to handle yourself in every situation. I think Tyrod is
most importantly too. Sorry for interrupting. Like, this guy's competitive. Like, this is why that fire still burns bright with Tyrod Taylor, and make no mistake about it, he's going to get paid again in the offseason.
Yep.
He is going to get paid. We're seeing the value of the backup quarterback just grow before our eyes with every single injury we see on TV. Tyrod Taylor's got some tread left on those tires.
And what's cool about this situation is, one, that nothing blew up outlandishly. Tyrod didn't say anything. But you see two veterans in this league in terms of Brian Daboll and Tyrod Taylor, understanding what the NFL is, the business within the business, the game within the game. For Brian Daboll to come out and say that means that they've seen enough when it comes to Tommy DeVito in terms of being able to, one, evaluate this guy and him having a grasp on the offense. You're not just going to keep throwing a guy out there to be like, all right, he'll figure it out this next game, especially against a Packers defense that's coming along and playing and trending in the right direction with the way they're playing their football. Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, they're in there with these meetings with this kid, Tommy DeVito, and he's been around since rookie camp. He understands this offense. And at the end of the day, when I don't know if it was before or after Coach Daboll announced that DeVito was going to be the starter, you saw Isaiah Hodgins' Instagram. You saw Sterling Shepard's Instagram. These guys are posting the DeVito cutlets or the Tommy cutlets beer. They're joking around, having a good time with him in the locker room. The players are behind this kid. The players are going to be behind this kid, and he's given this team and these receivers a chance to be evaluated. The Wandells, the Jalen Hyatts, the Darius Slaytons. He's giving his team a chance to not only win games, but to also for other players to be evaluated. So you got to ride it out. You got to ride it out with this one, and I think that Coach Daboll made the right decision, Paul.
And you know what? And I think if it went the other way, right? If he came out Tuesday, Brian Daboll, and said, look, Tyrod was the starter. He got hurt. Tommy did a great job, but we're going to go back to Tyrod. I don't think there would have been. I think the reaction would have been similar in the locker room, right? They would have said, "All right, we get it. We're good with Tyrod." So it was very often these situations are not handled maturely, right? Mm-hmm. There's just people fly off the handle and say things, and this was like very mature. Now, look, I get it. This is not Joe Montana or Steve Young. I get it. They're 4-8. Right. I also think if they were 8-4, Tyrod Taylor might be the starting quarterback this week. But these are all factors that go into it. And do I think Tyrod Taylor will start another game this year for the Giants? I do. So we'll see. There's injuries. I'm not wishing that on anybody. There's performance. So I just think sometimes it works. Sometimes the coach says something and the players accept it. And if it went the other way, Tyrod handled it right. And you know what else? Tommy DeVito is a smart dude. He handled it. He was very, he's not the most understated guy. He was very understated that day. Everyone was around him and he was like, okay, this is the decision. Tyrod is a great guy. He's been a great mentor to me. You know what I mean? He read the room, and it's like, I'm not going to sit here and go crazy because my teammate over there is disappointed. So, sometimes it's handled right. This is handled right.
Yeah, well, what I'm most interested in seeing this week is, listen, it's easy to play when there's really no one behind you, in a sense, like Matt Barkley was the guy. Tyrod Taylor can play. And, right, this is a different set of circumstances for Tommy DeVito. There are expectations now. There are lines out in Wayne, New Jersey waiting for his autograph. He did a video on some foodie network. Listen, there's been a lot of attention on Tommy DeVito, and I think he can handle it. And then Monday Night Football, production team's going to come in and want to talk to Tommy DeVito, right? We want to see this. We'll see. The NFL's great when you're kind of the underdog, but when there's an expectation placed upon you, those are the guys that rise to the top, and those are the guys that get paid. So I'm really interested in that storyline of the 2-0 Tommy DeVito with all the eyes on him, because they're going to be on him on Monday night.
Yeah, he's got.
I got one more thing. And this is where I think Tyrod was so, he said he had 4 broken ribs, right? 2 of them were displaced.
Wow.
Right? 4 broken ribs, 2 displaced. So the first week or so, they were like, okay, we got to worry about your internal organs here because your ribs are displaced. Okay. They said 6 weeks. He said, the way I feel, I think I can do it faster. So he came back more quickly than the timeline given to him. And then he was told, thank you, that's great, but you're not going to start. So, that hurts too. You know what I mean? Why am I, putting my body at risk? That hurts. And that's another thing that he sucked it up and accepted it. And he's like, I had 4 broken ribs and I came back and I'm ready. And, you're saying, not so fast. I'm sure you guys both have a lot of examples. When I say, is it fair? Was it fair? You would say, no.
If you're looking for fair, the NFL is not the business that you should be in. That's not it. I mean, you think about fair. We can move on and talk about Saquon Barkley. A lot of people talk about where has this guy been. I mean, if you look at his totals against the Patriots, 12 carries, 46 yards, one catch for 6 yards. That was his lowest for yards from scrimmage of 2023. Here's a guy that is kind of benefiting from the Tommy DeVito storyline because no one's really talking about Saquon. I think before the bye week going in the Patriots game, we didn't really mention him too much on the pregame show. I think this is going to be a huge game for Saquon because, one, you're going to have to run the ball against this team to protect DeVito. Two, this is just a Monday night prime time. It's one of those y'all must have forgot who I am type games for Saquon to come out and just run rampant, Paul.
Look, what does that tell you about the way defenses think of Tommy DeVito, right? They line up and say, we're stopping 26, and if that quarterback makes a few plays, not a big deal. You know what I mean? The priorities are Saquon. And so now the key is, can Tommy DeVito do enough to get them out of that?
Yeah.
To get them more honest on defense. Saquon's interesting, right? He had 1,300 yards as a rookie, right? Offensive rookie of the year. And I remember talking to Tiki Barber, who has 10,449 career yards, right? And Tiki was like, this dude's gonna pass me. You know what I mean? This dude's a great player. He's got 1,300 already. Tiki had very little his first year. And what's happened? The guy, Saquon is 142 yards from Brandon Jacobs to go into 4th place on the list, right? At this point, we thought Saquon was going to be way past this, right? But injuries and, some other things have so, I think you make a good point, Brandon, that, the bye week, Tommy Cutlets, all these other things, Jalen Hyatt making plays down the field. Saquon's got another couple of big games in him. And, are these the last games? Is this the last bye week he's going to experience with the Giants? Maybe, right? So, yeah, he's an interesting guy to watch down the stretch here, no question.
Tynes, if Saquon balls out on Monday night primetime football, does he now recapture the leverage against this Giants organization?
I think he already has, to be quite honest. He's remained healthy. He had a little bump in the road there with the ankle in Arizona, but I mean, you can see what this offense is with him in the lineup. And just his spirit, the way he goes about his business. And I really think he galvanized that locker room right when I don't know what they were, 2-8, probably something like that. And he said, we come to work. I'm paraphrasing here, like we're 10-0. He didn't say that, but he said it doesn't feel like we're 2-8 or whatever the record was. That takes a lot of leadership, and Saquon has shown that throughout his career. I'm really impressed with Saquon this year. I think, quite frankly, it could be one of his best seasons, just in terms of leadership on the field. He's the only show in town, right? A lot of guys are just coming to the stadium to watch him, and some people on the defense. Now it's Tommy DeVito, but I'm really impressed with Saquon this season. I really am. And I think from a organizational standpoint, you have to do whatever you can to keep this kid in blue. You really do. I'd probably get emotional watching this kid have success in the playoffs because we all know what he's been through as a player. So I want to see Saquon have success in the postseason. And the record's not great this year, but I think within the next 1 or 2 years, this team can be somewhere, deep into the playoffs if they keep evolving and drafting well.
And they're only.
And what else?
Go ahead, Paul.
You know what else with Saquon? He is the Giants nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year, right? Yeah. And
he's awesome.
He might get it. You know what I mean? Look, every team has a nominee, right? And he was the nominee last year too, I think, I believe. And sometimes you need that setup year. Every team has a nominee, and they're all terrific guys, I'm sure. But some guys are more they're more the favorites to win it. You know what I mean? And I think he has a real chance to win it. And you guys know. I mean, there's MVP, there's Rookie of the Year, there's all the Walter Payton Man of the Year is that's like NFL nobility, right? When you win that, it's not, you don't get that from popularity. You get that from being a good citizen, right?
And Paul, to think, let me add a little cherry on top to that work that he's doing out there in the city and the community. He's doing it when the team stinks. Think about that. That's hard to do. It's really hard to go do, even when you're winning. But I'm sure all the questions about losing, which he's done a lot of, so it makes it even that much more sweeter. What he's doing for those kids. I love seeing the families after the games that he brings to every home game. He's a superstar. The kid's a superstar, and I think he's only 26. So 27? How old is he? I forget.
Young guy.
It's interesting. You got a little emotional talking about him, and you have.
I did.
In the past, you have.
I've been hard on him because I do think that listen. I think maybe I have been hard on him, but I know what kind of talent he is. But man, if you think about what that kid's been through and how he's showing up to work every day, you can't help but root for 26. And hopefully I never see him in another jersey again, like a different color. He should only be with this franchise.
Because I wanted him to get traded away. I'm not going to lie. Not because I didn't think that he belongs here. I just wanted to see him have some success somewhere else, play in the playoffs this year, not have to wait. Same thing with Sterling Shepard. But let's cross on over because we had some more fuel to the fire, I guess, some more storylines. The whole Evan Neal thing. Come out, said some stuff. Paul, can you break that down for us? And let's get into that because I see you smiling. You've been waiting to talk about that. He's the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to giving the media something to talk about.
I like Evan Neal. I have no issue with him. But if he was as defiant on the field as he is talking about himself sometimes, he'd be a great player. You know what I mean? Look, he's not going to play again this week. He had the right ankle sprain. He came back. Now he has a left ankle sprain. He says it hurts. He's a big guy, right? I can only imagine what those ankles feel like with 330 or 40 pounds being, your ankles are only so big, right? He's a big guy. So, so he takes umbrage and really, gets he gets upset when he gets questioned. He works hard. He's a pretty good guy. He's a good guy. He said the stupid things about the fans earlier in the year. He took those back. Okay. So he said, this is what he said about, maybe playing right tackle, maybe going inside to guard. He said, as soon as I stepped out of the womb, I stepped out as an offensive tackle. Okay. Well, I don't know what he weighed at birth, but maybe if he was 12 pounds, he looked like an offensive tackle, right? Because he said, look, Joe Shane said, you guys talked to Joe Shane last week, and he said, Joe Shane was asked, do you see him ever being a guard? He said, no, we think of him as a tackle. First of all, I don't know what else Joe Shane is not going to bring up, in week 12. Oh yeah, we may move him to guard down the road because he drafted a number 7. His reputation is on him being a good right tackle. Look, it's been a bad year. It's been a bad year for Evan Neal. It'll be nice if he gets back on the field for 2 or 3 games and maybe has an upswing in his performance because he went into the season as a question, and he is a monster question mark right now. Can you start him at right tackle next year? The answer right now is, Tyree Phillips. Probably better.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he's going to have to get back healthy and play, have at least 3 more solid games before going into the offseason because he's one of those guys that I'm thinking you got to recreate your storyline. Like, you got to recreate the narrative about you. And this team is only 2 wins away from being in the fight for locking up that last wild card spot. And again, this team that started down in the dumpster with some blowouts and all, but to still be in the mix, you might have a chance to recreate your storyline. And I think like a guy like Xavier McKinney, I'm just go over to the defense. Remember when he said what he said and he kind of went 0 dark 30 on the entire media, Paul? Here's a dude that just shut up and just started playing. I'm looking at his numbers since the Vegas game: 10 tackles, 13 tackles, 10 tackles against New England. Pass breakups, he's been all over the field. There are some guys that the hype is just naturally going to come to them, but then there are some guys who's just like, it looked like they've locked in and just has been like, you know what, I'm just going to shut up and I am going to go play. And Xavier McKinney has been one of those guys. Is there anybody else for you guys, like, going forward, that just should just take on that shut up and play mentality? Stay away and just go right into just ball out on the field. Is anybody for you guys?
Man, just, everybody, to be honest with you. I'd like to comment on Evan Neal. I like when he interviews. I think that I love his energy, and I love how he talks and some of the quotes he says. Listen, we were all talking the same way about Andrew Thomas after his second season. Yeah. Maybe not this bad, but Andrew Thomas was a we used to beat on him pretty hard his second year in the league, and he evolved and turned into this all-pro tackle. I'm not so sure that Evan Neal that's his ceiling, but I do think he's better than what he showed this season. And, the question this is going to turn around onto is Bobby Johnson, guys. If you think about where Tyree Phillips went for, let's call it 5-6 weeks, whatever, I don't know the number of weeks he was in Philly, he came back a better player. He is a better right tackle right now than Evan Neal. Not saying his ceiling is better than Evan Neal's, but right now Tyree Phillips is playing because he's the better player. So that's an interesting end of the season type of conversation that we'll all figure out down the road. But I just think everyone's on notice, right? When you're this bad, Brandon, everyone's got to play well. And to talk about Xavier McKinney, maybe he was right. Maybe he went about it the wrong way, talking to the media in terms of being loud about it. But I just think they're putting the game plan around him more. I really see him being that 2020, 2021 type player, flying around, making plays, and that's who he is. Maybe Dable said, hey, Wink, we got to change the game plan here and get this kid around the football and, get him more active. I don't know that. I'm just blowing smoke right now. But
you know what?
I think that's what happened.
He's never off the field.
Yeah,
he's
playing a lot.
He and Bobby Okereke have played every snap on defense. First of all, that is tremendous, for a guy to not need a blow for one play or two play or tweak something, or your finger goes out of joint. I mean, Bobby Okereke's had fingers and ribs, and he just doesn't come off.
But I saw he wasn't on the injury report this week.
Who?
Is he? Bobby Okereke. Is he on the report this week?
No, but the injury reports don't suit him. No. I mean, no, there's no question about him if he's going to be practicing full. You know what I mean?
Because you proposed a hypothetical to us about Tyrod Taylor in the playoffs. Okay. Do you re-sign Xavier McKinney after this season?
Yeah, I mean, you have a guy who you say you're so valuable to the team, you have to play every snap, right? I don't think he's a bad guy or a bad seed. He had the mishap last year, which cost him 7 games. That was a mishap, and everyone felt bad for the guy. I don't think it was, he wasn't out. He wasn't skydiving. So okay, I can get past that certainly, and I think the Giants have gotten past that. And he said something this year. I don't think it was, it was silly. It was immature. I don't think it was awful. How much is he going to want? I don't see Joe Shane giving a safety, crazy money. You know what I mean? $12 million a year, $13 million a year. So we'll see. They wanted Julian Love back, and they gave him a decent offer. I think $7 or $8 million a year, and he didn't take it, and he went to Seattle for less money. So I do think if you don't have a plan for Xavier McKinney, then you better have a plan for who's going to replace him. Because Pinnock is here and he's nice, but who's the guy who's going to replace? I don't know. I mean, 1,000 snaps, right? That's how much these guys play. 1,000 snaps. You tell me who's going to fit in and play 1,000 snaps next year for you? It's not going to be some rookie you draft. So, I mean, he's not a guy who you say he's definitely not coming back next year. No, I wouldn't say that.
I would say that. I don't think he's going to be here because I don't think there's going to be a right price. They're not going to offer him that right price. Talk about a team with so many holes to fill. You're going to have to bring in free agents. You're going to have to throw some money around to some guys. And I watched Xavier's IG story over the break. He was out in L.A. at the Balenciaga fashion show. Like, he got the tattoos on the body and all. Like, I think here's a guy he's a star on the rise. And I think that he could go somewhere else, get his money, and if he continues to play well and continues to ascend the way he is, he's going to be one of the top 3, top 5 safeties in the NFL for another team. So I personally believe, but it has to be a market like L.A. It has to be like a Dallas or a Miami. I don't think he's going to go to a Kansas City or somewhere small or Seattle. I think he has to go to a big market because I think he likes the lights. New York has taught him to like the lights, and he can play well. I think he gets his money elsewhere, but that's somebody I feel as though they should keep, because if you obviously have Tay Banks coming back, if you have Xavier McKinney back there, you got Jason Pinnock who's solid, and then Cordell Flott, I believe, is going to be this team's starting corner next year as CB2, and that's all shout outs to Lawrence Tynes for identifying that talent right there. But I think that could be that secondary going forward and having some success in the NFL next season.
Yeah, I mean, you look, there are 5 games left, so there's a lot of time for guys to come back into the picture, come out of the picture. I think it's interesting. I think this team is held together well, despite all the issues and the losing and the losing and the losing. So it'll be interesting to see if they can. I think there's more losing. I don't think this is onward and upward here. They had a nice 2-game winning streak. And if the Tommy DeVito bubble gets burst, then it's like, okay, we got to go down a stretch. I mean, it's hard to believe, isn't it? They have not played the Eagles yet. I mean, it's unbelievable. The season's almost over. They haven't played the Eagles yet.
Trying not to think about it.
I know. I mean, that's you're not sitting there. That's like you got this mortgage payment. You got this mortgage payment and a car payment sitting out there,
coming
and you're like, I don't know if I have the money for one of those, and I got to pay both. And let's just get through the holiday season and we'll figure it out. But in the back of your mind, man, that's a big check I got to write. I don't know if I've got it. I mean, the Eagles. I mean, we'll see. Look, the Eagles and Cowboys are going to play a great game on Sunday, right? I mean, it will be.
Yep.
It'd be nice to watch that game and not have a Giant game to worry about. We got the Giants the next day.
Man, I'm just thinking about when that mortgage in that car note hits. You eating PBJs, not chicken cutlets. You're eating PBJs, not the chicken cutlets. And that's going to bring us into our player prop bets and some of these over-unders for this game. Obviously, the first one, Tommy DeVito, over-under 178 yards passing. Tynes, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't like that number at all. I think under. I know that's kind of paltry, but I think this is a big Saquon game. The Packers aren't great against the run, just like the Giants aren't. Pacheco had a really big night, if you think back to that game against the Chiefs last week. So I think this is a Saquon night. I think it's a big night. He's going to be rested. He hasn't had a lot of carries coming into the bye week, too, so he should be even more rested after that 36-carry performance against the Jets. So I'm going to go under here for Tommy DeVito.
Paul.
I usually go under with these kind of things. I'm going to go over. The Packers give up 203 passing yards a game. Look, DeVito, they didn't have enough points, obviously, last week. He's got 171 against the Pats, 246 against Washington. I understand. You guys could probably have 200 against Washington. You know what I mean? I get it. I could probably have, forget about what I could have against Washington. I could, I might be able to hand the ball off once if John Michael Schmidt's snap didn't break my fingers. Okay, so I'm not going to go there with that. But I think I think he can do it. He's going to throw the ball down the field, right? You get a 1 or 2 to Hyatt, and you got 50, 60 yards right there. So I'll go over.
Yeah, I'm going to go over with you, Paul. This kid has breathed some life into the receiving corps. Like, you see these guys excited. Isaiah Hodgins, okay, 1 catch, but it was a touchdown. He's letting guys use their skill set, use their strengths, getting the ball down the field to Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton, obviously having some big plays in there. I think this receiving core is all Tommy Cutlet, Tommy DeVito. I think they're Team Tommy on this one, so I think he throws over 178. Saquon Barkley, over under 71.5 rushing yards. Paul.
We don't think the Giants have done a great job against the run this year, right? I think they give up 136 a game. So do the Packers, okay? 136 yards a game. They're not great against the run. I'm going to say over. Look, you guys have both been, Lawrence is gearing up for a huge Saquon game Monday night. So, he's rested. He'll get a couple of long runs. I'll go over 71.5 for Saquon.
Tynes.
Yeah, over for me. I'm thinking somewhere between 85, 95 yards for Saquon and 40 or 50 receiving. So, listen, Andrew Thomas 2 weeks off. That's going to help him out a lot with that sprained MCL. I think this O-line is as healthy as it's been all season, so they're going to be refreshed. And you can run against the Packers. That's how you're going to have to win this game. So give me the over.
I'm taking over as well. I think that DeVito can throw for over 178, and I think Saquon can rush for over 71.5. I think he gets into the hundreds. It's going to be one of those games, man. I think DeVito throws them out of that one high shell and puts them into a two high safety look and forces them to play the deep ball. And I think that's when Saquon really gets off in that second half. So I'm going over with this one. Let's switch over to the defense. Giants D. 1.5 takeaways over under. Tynes.
Yeah, Love's been really good with the football, I think. No interceptions over the last 3. But the Giants on the other side of the ball defensively have 11 takeaways. And I think maybe 1 or 2 is special teams. But a lot of takeaways in the last 3 games. So give me the over here.
Paul?
And Love has 10 interceptions, but you're right. Lately not. Lately not. So I would not say he's sloppy with the ball. I know the Giants have been big takeaway guys. I'm just going to say under. Those things kind of, are the Giants good at taking the ball away? Yeah, I mean, they have been the last 2-3 games, but I'm going to say under. The Packers are, the Packers are playing well. You know what I mean? The Packers are doing what it takes to win, and turning it over is not what it takes to win. So I'll say under. I think they may have a turnover, but I don't think they'll have 2.
I'm going to go over. I think they get 2 because I think this defense understands how they have to win going forward. They understand they're going to have to give Tommy DeVito extra opportunities, give that offense extra possessions. So I believe that the defense, whether Xavier McKinney, Cordell Flott, Micah McFadden, Bobby Okereke, all these guys are coming up with turnovers. I think they go over and get 2 on the day. Jordan Love, over under 228.5 passing yards. Paul, start with you. 228.5.
I'll go over. The Packers like to throw it, they run it when they have to. LaFleur likes to throw it. Look, I sat back and watched, Love play terrific against the Chiefs. He's an ascending player. Oh, maybe you think that's what you can do with a quarterback? You can draft him and you don't have to play him right away. You can sit and wait and then you can play when he's ready. That's what a novel idea, right? Oh, no, we have to play these guys right away. Sometimes they're ready, sometimes they're not. This looks like a really smart. You imagine if he's a really good player, they go from. I'm not putting him in Favre Rodgers. What's that? You know what I mean? But if he's a really good player, they're going to have him for 10 years with the other guy for 15 and the other guy for 15. I mean, pretty nice, huh? So that's a long way of saying I think he can throw for over 228 yards against the Giants.
Tynes.
Yeah, over for me. I like Jordan Love. I think he is a good player. I mean, 22-10 right now. No interceptions in the last 3. And if you look at this receiving core, guys, this is the most interesting stat I've seen in a long time. Those young receivers, Reed, Dobbs, and Watson, have 17 touchdown receptions. You're thinking running back, tight ends. No. 5 for the rookie, 7 for Dobbs and Watson, who we don't think is going to play, 5 for him. Those are big numbers for young first, second-year players. And Musgrave, a young, talented tight end that's coming along. This team is young. They're exciting. They're good. But yeah, easily over the 228 for me. I mean, Jordan Love he's good. I like him.
Yeah, I'm going to go over with this one as well, especially if Dexter Lawrence doesn't play. If that Giants pass rush is not going to get to him. It's like he's going to be playing 7-on-7 out there, just sitting there patting the ball, getting the ball out. He distributes the ball very well. I'm very impressed with this kid. That leads us, what you said about the receivers, Tynes, that leads us into this one. Romeo Dobbs and or Jaden Reed over under 41.5 receiving yards. Can one of them go over?
Easy, absolutely. But I think both. Reed's the second round rookie, and then the other kid, Dobbs, is the 4th round. I mean, these kids are good players. Yeah. They do a really good job of developing receivers and drafting them in Green Bay. So yeah, over for me.
Paul.
Hold on, I'm opening a FanDuel or DraftKings right now. 41.5 for one of those guys. Oh, easy. You're right. Both. Easy. I mean, both, everybody. These, we were watching that game last week, and Watson went down late in that game, right? and that's a big loss for them.
Yeah.
You saw him pull up and, kind of, on the sideline, and, that was a classic hamstring. So he, I don't think there's any chance he plays this week. I think they're talking about weeks with him. So, but yeah, these guys are good players. There's an energy there, right? There's an energy with these Packer receivers, which can Aaron Rodgers, retroactively tell the Jets to bring these guys into the Jets next year? He got all the other Packer receivers. Can he just said, tell Joe Douglas, get me Reed and Dobbs next year too? Is he allowed to do that? Or I guess he doesn't have that power anymore. No?
They would love to swap out Cobb and Lazard for sure for those two guys, like hands down.
Well, you got to swap out the head coach. To hell with the receivers.
True.
LaFleur for Salah.
Well, I'm going to go
Hackett, and I can go down the list.
I'll go over for these two. Jordan Love is showing that he's one of those quarterbacks that makes receivers better. His location. Mark Trestman used to say all the time when he was my CFL head coach, location, location, location. Where you put the ball matters. And he's putting the ball right where receivers love. No pun intended. Last but not least, total of 37 points. 37 points is the over-under. Paul, go ahead.
I'm going to say over. I mean, with the Giants, that's tricky. You know what I mean, to say over. I think there'll be some points in this game. Maybe that's my bye week, Tommy DeVito, something kicking in. I think they can score some points. So I'm going to say over. I think the Giants can get to 17. If they get to 17, then the Packers, don't need, they need 20 to get to 37. So I think the Packers are going to score more than 20. So I'll go over here.
Tynes?
Yeah, over for me. I just think both offenses are going to put up some points. This could be kind of, everyone was banging on the Steelers, Patriots lowest over-under and since 2005. What was it, 30 points? I mean, that thing was gone in the first half almost. So I think this is a classic game. It's a low over-under for an NFL game. Rightfully so, though. The Giants are averaging, I think, 13 points a game. You take away their defensive scores, they're averaging less than that on offense. So, but I'll go over. For some reason, maybe Monday Night Football, the excitement.
Maybe call me crazy. I'm going under on this one. I think it's going to be a defensive game. I think teams will move up and down, in between the 20s, but I think both of these teams are going to have to settle for 3. I think under 37 is, that's a tribute to the way that both of these defense have been playing. Paul, start us off with your final thoughts, then I'll go, and then Tynes, you kick us home.
These games are interesting, right? The Giants are 0-4 on Monday night. They've been outscored by like 84 points. Is that a big factor? I mean, I don't know, but, are they ready for this? Excuse me. The Packers are playing great, and they are ascending. In the Packers' narrative to make the playoffs does not include losing to the 4-8 Giants. You know what I mean? So this is a absolute game that the Packers have to win. I think they will win it. I think it can be a good game, but I think the Packers will win. The Giants would really impress me if they would win this game just because, they kind of had a little bit of momentum and then they had a week off. So that momentum is not there anymore. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. These last 5 games, we'll see how much they talk a lot about the Giants, about how, we're still in it. We're still in it. And, we still got the mojo in these last 5 games. But you guys know, late in the season, they've had a break. The holidays are coming up. If you lose, it gets rough. So it'll be interesting to see if the Giants can kind of hold this together.
If I was to talk to the Giants team, I would tell them they cannot be a victim of their success. It's the same thing leading into this season. The expectations and the hype was there. They kind of laid an egg at the beginning of the season. Now you win 2 games against 2 dog teams of the NFL, 2 not so great teams, and now you got a chance to play to try and punch above your weight class. You cannot get blown out on Monday Night Football off of all of the hype, off of all the expectations that are now leading into this team. And I will also, if I'm Brian Daboll, I'll tell those guys, you owe yourself a grinded out win. You talk about the Jets and the Bills. You let those 2 slide off. This team, this is not going to be a blowout. This is not the Commanders. This is not the Patriots who could have kicked themselves into overtime and saw how that game went. But this is one of those games where I feel like they're going to collectively have to play complementary football and grind this thing out. Whether you got to kick a field goal at the end to win it, who cares how you get the W? But at the end of the day, Juicy should be playing in the locker room Monday night. And I got to go get that W because the season depends on it. Tynes, kick us home.
Well, I think this is the first game we're going to have this season with a special teams touchdown.
Ooh.
And here's why. The Packers ranked 30th in punt return against. The young punter, Whelan. I see Gunnar Olszewski returning a punt for a touchdown. You know, that's my vision. Yeah. He's been great. He's been fantastic.
Good.
And that's, you know, who's number one in the NFL in punt returns against. We don't talk about a lot of things the Giants are number one in. It's the Giants. The Giants are number one in the NFL in punt returns against. That's partly in due for Jamie Gillen. Here's what I think. We get the punt return. Tommy DeVito returns the favor from 2015 when Paramus Catholic beat Don Bosco and Rashawn Gary. I don't know, sacked him 17 times, it seems like. Rashawn Gary was the number one player in the country coming out of high school out of Paramus Catholic. So Tommy DeVito has seen this guy before. Yeah. Hopefully we don't see much of him on Monday night. But I love a rested Giants team, a re-energized and refocused team. They've won 2 in a row. They have confidence. And Saquon Barkley going absolutely stupid on Monday night for a massive game. Best game of the year I think he's going to have. And the Giants win this game 24-20. We're not stopping.
Can't
They're
stop,
gonna
won't
win.
stop.
They're going to win.
Can't
the Giants
stop,
will
won't
win
stop.
this game. And, oh, by the way, I like beating the Packers too.
The props are back.
I like beating the Packers too. You guys see that, Packer fans? You guys see that? You remember that night? Holy shit, that was cold.
What a game.
Anyway, I actually own stock in the Packers. They got a little landmark there at the 37-yard line, right hash.
Lars,
LT was here. LT was here.
When you lined up for that field goal, I was up in the press box, right? And, you know, it was a nightmare game to write on deadline. You know what I mean? You know, it was just an overtime.
To keep you on your toes.
I mean, you don't know. You know, you're either going to the Super Bowl or you're not. You have no idea what's going to happen in this game, right? You know, and then, you know, I remember when that kick went through, I just looked over at, I think Vinny DiTrani was working for the Bergen Record. Remember him? You know, he covered the Giants for many years. And I like, you know, okay, now I have to write, you know, I need like 3 minutes to write this, and I go run down to the locker room and then rewrite it again, right? And I just looked at him, and he just looked at me, and I just went like I've told you this. You know, we always hear about the old-time guys, you know, oh, I covered the Ice Bowl, I covered the greatest, and I just remember thinking, I have to do this game justice. This is one of the great playoff games in NFL history. You know,
I gave you an all-expense-paid trip to Arizona for a week. Pretty good. You guys owe me a little. You guys owe me a drink, all you writers.
I was going anyway.
Oh, you were? Okay.
You gave me a lot more work because I was covering my team in the Super Bowl.
Well, that's a good thing.
You know what? You don't get into this. You guys don't get into it to lose games. And, you know, I don't go into it to just cover lousy teams and then that's, you know, so I remember thinking, oh my God, this game will hold up to any game in history. And it did, and it does. And now I'm one of the hosts of a podcast with the guy who did it.
There we go.
Pretty good.
There we go.
Right?
I was sitting there like, we going Sizzler. We going Sizzler.
Hey, little bonus check too. That never hurts.
And the DBs put some money together and threw me extra for that as well, man.
I remember that.
What a year, man. What a year. Man, we can talk stories all day long. But that's a wrap on the Week 14 Blue Rush Preview Show. Make sure you hit up and subscribe to the New York Post Sports YouTube page for all Blue Rush videos and some fire content, if I may add, as well. As for the podcast, we're on Apple, Spotify, and almost every podcast platform out there. New episodes of the preview show go up on Thursdays before a game, and the post-game podcast posts the day after a game. Obviously, this is a weird week because it's Monday Night Football. We posted it today on Friday. Tynes, close us out here, man. The floor is yours. Close us out.
I mean, what else we got? You want to see the picture again? Do we want to show all the Packers fans? I mean, this is all I got. That's all I got.
There we go. For the entire Blue Rush crew, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys on Monday.